Hey guys, welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm very excited. I'm going to be introducing Jaymie here. He's going to be talking about off-grid living, which is a great topic that people have definitely asked me in regards to Costa Rica. But Jaymie definitely has kind of more of a world view on it. And I know that some people watching these videos maybe aren't just considering moving to Costa Rica, or maybe you are looking to accomplish a particular kind of lifestyle that maybe off-grid living offers. So I think that this information will be helpful maybe for someone who is moving here or just wants to learn about off-grid living and other places that could be possible too. So thanks for coming on. I'm really excited to chat with you and just see how the conversation goes and see what information comes up.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me. Yeah, really eager to be as valuable as I can be for you.
Well, perfect. So do you want to tell me just a bit about a background of how you guys got started, what exactly you do?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think I've known that I've always wanted to do this. I was probably 13 or so when I just kind of felt like there was a bit of a trap in society as far as, going out and going into student debt and then getting a job and buying a house that you don't have time to spend in because you're so busy working to pay off your debt, and like that whole kind of thing, which I know you understand. And I was just really thought there was a better way to live. And for me, I really enjoyed being close to nature. I really wanted to get back to the land and live in a beautiful setting with my future family. And yeah, friends and family as well, with a little bit of community side of things. And then, as I grew up, I kind of just noticed just other broken systems. Like I had some health issues, some mental health issues, and I think the system kind of leads us to believe that that can all just be fixed with a pill, when it definitely cannot. And then seeing like broken food systems, degrading soil, as well as most things in a grocery store just being, synthetic crap, basically. So between all those things, we just wanted to go and just live a more holistic life and grow our own food and be healthy and be close to nature and have that freedom where we didn't have to feel forced to go work a day job that we didn't like and things like that. So I tried a lot. I tried for probably 15 years. I had, I think 16 different jobs. I opened 5 different businesses, and it was always with the goal to make enough money to be able to go buy land and build this lifestyle. And then I ended up I was forced, I lost my livelihood during COVID. And I was forced to basically sell the company assets to another business. And then I had to go work corporate inside that business for a while, which I had a really horrible experience in, and like lots of mental health related stuff in that. Very stressful. And then after that, I just kind of like, it's time. Like I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. So I ended up having to bankrupt my business, and my brother let go of his company. And we were both kind of sitting there like, now what do we do with our lives? And we just said, screw it, let's just go straight at it and see. And we knew that, we knew a bit about real estate, and we knew that if we can communicate and provide and create value for somebody, that they would help us buy the land. And that's exactly what happened. So we started to lay out the vision of what we wanted to do, and started to talk with people about that, and ended up getting a mortgage partner within about 3 months, who came in and helped out with the down payment on the property, as well as co-signed, because my credit was ruined from going through all the stuff during COVID. I was also in a bunch of debt because I overextended my personal credit during trying to like save my business. So I was like $40,000 in like credit card debt at the time as well. And we still were able to go out and get help to buy land and maintain majority ownership of it and keep buyback rights. And 2 years later, we're going through. We found ourselves going through the agreements to buy our investors out and take full ownership. So you can kind of think of it like a long-term loan. So yeah, that's kind of where we started. And yeah, that's that. We knew that we needed to generate income on the land right fast, because we didn't have any. And then we wanted the land to not just be, food secure and self-sufficient in terms of water and power and housing and people and community, but also financially. And I think that's one part that a lot of people miss is trying to use the real estate to cover their lifestyle costs and the cost of building it out, because it costs money, obviously quite a bit, to build a home and to build all the things that you would like, as well as to just cover the operating cost of living out there. Like there's always maintenance and things like that too.
That's super interesting. So where do you guys have the land located, and how big is it? And like, what was your initial vision for it? And now what has it actually progressed into so far?
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a great question, because the journey definitely took some turns. That's for sure. So our land is in Rock Creek, British Columbia, Canada. Although we work with clients all over the world, and it's 160 acres. And we looked at everything from 20 acres right up to like 300 plus acres, and we were going to buy something smaller, but we kind of decided, I want to get up in the morning and I want to have animals and I want to ride my horse and explore without having to hit a fence. So we ended up going for quite a large property, and we found property that was undervalued because of the terrain. Like most people are looking for flat land that's like used for traditional farming, which is more expensive. We went a little bit farther out, and we found 160 acres. It has a mountain on it, so we have our own mountain. So the terrain is like pretty crazy, but we use a lot of permaculture methods on how to utilize that in a good way and still farm it and be productive with it, and also just flip those things that people traditionally think are bad about land into good things. So, for us, we attract a lot of people there because our views from our mountaintop are like really incredible. So yeah, and for hiking and things like that. So yeah, lots of ways to do that, to find undervalued property. So we were able to buy that for about 210,000, which is about $1,500 an acre or so. And yeah, that's what we started with. Originally, we thought that the first goal, because we knew we were going to run out of money quickly, the first goal was to set up some form of income generation. And we figured that was going to be like camping, short-term rentals, and retreats. So doing a retreat center. And that's what we did. And we kind of designated like 10 or 15 acres of the property in one corner to that. And then that way we had the other 145 acres to do whatever we wanted with. And we ran like that for the first 2 years, and it was great. And yeah, we really loved it. It worked really well. And, we did the full hydrotherapy stuff. We had saunas and ice baths and everything. And yeah, we hosted over 150 people in the first year, 5-star reviews in every category. It was really amazing time, all sorts of retreats and stuff. Shelby and I are also Indigenous. We've Indigenous status. So we had our elders would come up and we would do drum making and sweat lodge and ceremonies and things of that sort. So it was really awesome. But ultimately, how we got where we are now is like about a year ago, we kind of just threw it out there. We were just like, hey, would anybody be interested in learning how we did this? And we got overbooked. We woke up the next morning, we got overbooked for that workshop by double and had to open up more weekends to fit everybody in. And people loved it. People were hugging us and crying, tears of joy, just saying that we changed their life and all this stuff. And it felt really, really awesome. We always knew education was going to be a part of our stuff. We just thought it was going to be more like a plaque on the ground talking, like telling Airbnb guests and stuff about like, what we're doing. But turns out people wanted more, and that's how we got into doing what we do now, and helping folks all over the world make that a reality for themselves.
I think it's so cool that you went from, not disaster, but you went from a really tough spot, like a really tight spot. And I know that, you're doing your different businesses and work so that you could eventually do this. But, you went from that tight spot into being able to do this, and actually make that happen for yourself now versus, years down the road, probably like you had planned. So I think that's really cool that you just dove in there. I'm sure, there's a lot of risk. I'm sure it was probably pretty scary. You're not always sure how things are going to pan out. and it definitely takes a lot of courage. And I think that's really cool. And now look, you get to provide that knowledge to other people who want to do that. Because I've seen that interest is definitely growing too. Like I've heard people, oh, I want to move down to Costa Rica and buy a bunch of land and, homestead or do permaculture and live off the land and maybe have a community. Some people have the ideas of having these communities. So I think that's amazing that that's something that you do teach on. So do you still host a lot of those workshops, or do you do online workshops? Like, how is that happening now?
Yeah, so we do both. We think it's important to offer people the option to come physically in person as well, although it just costs more for us, time-wise, staffing, accommodations, food, all the stuff. So naturally the ticket prices are higher for that. And our goal is really to make the information as accessible as possible for as many people as possible, just because our reason that we love education is because it's the biggest indicator of the future direction of a society or a group of people, and we really think it's our way to impact the coming generations to move society in a better direction. So a lot of people tell us that we should be selling our program for 10 times as much, because that's what most people are doing. Is you have to get on a phone call and then you have to pay $5,000 or something to like get into it. We don't do that. So we offer really lenient payment plans. Our price is 10% of that or less. It's like 8% of that. So way, way lower. And we just very thorough, very well built out. At least that's the feedback that we're getting. We're just doing our best. But yeah, so we have online options that people can get into anytime. And we try to do a lot of like done for you options as well to make things really easy for people. So for example, like how to communicate people's visions and whatnot in order to, raise the funds to get land and get mortgage partners and whatever, and raise funds to also build out the property and things like that. So we provide our business plan, pitch deck, financial projections pre-filled out with all of the real numbers that we use to do that. We have different templates and stuff that are styled up, and people can just take those and run with them. So normally that takes obviously a long time and kind of a daunting task to put some of those documents together. So we like to do that and give people playbooks. So it's like a step-by-step guide. So it's like, here's all the why behind what we're doing in the course. And then here's a playbook if you just want to get right to it and just get into action. So we do our best to make it, to keep it. I've just taken programs that are fluffy and it's just kind of like, okay, sweet. I'm just like reading random stuff I don't care about. So we want to make ours like really actionable.
That's super cool. And so, since you've been teaching people, I'm sure you've had people that have followed through on it. Like, do you have any cool examples of people that, contacted you, weren't sure where to start, and now actually have their own thing going?
Yeah. So we kind of have two groups. We have a group of anybody can go and like, take the program online kind of thing right now. And then we have the people that like come in person and the people that join our VIP group, which is where they get to work with me every 2 weeks. It's unlimited amount of time. So sometimes those calls, like I'll spend 8 hours with people if I really need to. Yeah, so those people, like we can't keep track of everybody, but we keep track of the people that we meet in person and that are in the groups and stuff. So out of those people, yeah, like a really great example, Jonathan, he arrived in Costa Rica with, I think it was like $2,000. And this was, I think a year and a half or 2 years ago. And now he has raised $3.2 million. He has bought land. I think they started with 5 or 10 acres. They raised 3.2 million and they are creating like all of the above. They're doing retreat center, homestead, intentional living community. Basically, they're like contractual, like casitas, like they're building casitas, and it's just like zoned out through a contract and then selling those off, kind of thing. That's how they're raising most of the money. So, and now he's actually buying an additional 50 acres for that property. So yeah, very exciting in the groups. Like he'll just send a screenshot of like $1 million coming into his bank account, and from a couple of years ago showing up there with like, nothing, and getting there is pretty amazing. To be honest, when we started, when we first hosted the workshop, we were kind of like, are people really going to be able to do this? Like we were kind of asking ourselves that question because, we grew up in the trades. So Shelby and I have some building experience. We've owned a couple businesses and stuff. So we have like a good mind for a lot of that stuff. And we kind of thought like, is this going to be doable by other people? And we are actually just blown away, to be honest. Like we had people come in and do it faster and better than we ever could. And it's, which is really empowering and inspiring for the group. Like we've had people come in and raise like 300, like Tom and Taddy, they came in, they raised $300,000 to buy a retreat center in Portugal within 90 days of taking the program. We had Jay Templeton in Washington, in the US. He within a couple months, he raised funds and secured an operating farm, 37 acres in Washington State. There's a bunch of examples. Some people already own land as well, so they'll use it to come in and design their property and start to build it out into what they want it to be, and to generate income on it so that they can retire or just quit their day job or whatever it might be. But yeah, we've definitely had projects of all sorts of sizes. FJ Leto in the States, he just purchased, I think it was something around 80 acres or something to open a retreat center and whatnot, and regenerative farm. It's usually a combination of kind of all of the above. Yeah, it's really, really crazy differences in projects. Like we have some people that are on like 5 acres that just want to have a homestead. And then we've got other people that are on like 1,000 acres that want to like build a full, like massive community. And then we have people building, like turning campgrounds into tiny home communities to address the affordable housing crisis. We have folks that just want to do permaculture and regenerative farming. So there's definitely a huge variety. And some of those projects are looking for $40,000 in funding, and some are looking for $3 million in funding. And some take 6 months to set up, and some take 5 years to set up. So it's like very different. It's all over the board for all of that stuff. But we're starting to come out with more client spotlights and like full case studies to just show people that, hey, like there's people doing this out there and you can come and get support.
And what I think is so cool that like obviously it's successful and it's happening because there's so many people in that same mindset. And I know that like with COVID really, I mean, I've had a huge influx of people moving here, but a lot of it was, while COVID happened, I took the time to think about my life, what I wanted for myself, or also, so maybe same with moving or doing these kinds of projects, maybe it is something that they've been thinking about doing for years, like you wanted to do, or maybe it's something that they really thought down and had to sit down and think about what was important for themselves and what their values are. And then it kind of led them to that. But it's just so interesting how that time really had people really evaluating themselves and taking action. And I mean, gosh, with everything going on nowadays, we're in February 28th of 2023 right now, in case this is an older video, but all the air quality issues, water quality issues, like this is something that, these are what you need to live and be happy. And so I can totally understand why a lot of people are gathering together and accomplishing this.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like it's just so many things. For us, it's big on like the food quality and stuff too, like having had health issues and stuff in the past, and stress and all those things on our bodies. Like we have more stressors in our environment now than I think we probably ever have, with just anything from pollution to radiation to fucking whatever it might be, like our water, everything. It's pretty insane. But the community thing and the amount of people that want to do this is a really good point, because a lot of people feel siloed. They feel like they are the only ones that want to do it. They might be the only ones in their family or friend group that are interested in it. But there's so many people, like so many. I've done a lot of stuff in my life, and I've never felt more supported than doing what we're doing right now. It's awesome people, so like-minded. Every time that we have people join us, it's like we make lifelong friends, every time people come and visit. And it's like also the help, like I would say the biggest barrier for people are the human factors and the financial side of things as well. So raising the money to do it, and then also finding the right people to help you do it. And like keeping those relationships clear, and the communication strong and all of that, like that can get really messy really quick too, depending on what those relationships look like. So those are some of the two biggest things that we address, because that's really that's really like, if you have those two things, then everything else figures itself out for the most part, or like you can figure it out a lot easier, that's for sure. And both the community of people that want to do this help solve both of those things, really. Like for the like even the financial side, like I just got a message this morning from a friend of mine who's come up and volunteered at some of our workshops. And so he has access to the course and he's been going through it, and he's kind of like, man, he's like, I've been thinking about doing this for so long. And I was just reading through the program and I figured like, fuck, like I could do this right now. Like, why couldn't I just try, like start right now? So we have a specific like communication method on how to tell your story and tell your why, like why you want to do this, so that it attracts aligned, like-minded people. Cause that's the last thing you want to do, is work with people who aren't aligned with what you want. And he went out and he posted it in some local Facebook groups in his area. Right away, he said, like a day later, he said, he had how many people? He had like, I think half a dozen people reach out in his vicinity that were interested in him coming and like leasing some land to set up his little retreat and to park a tiny home on and start living that lifestyle. And then he said he also got contacted by a few people who are interested in investing. So literally 48 hours after he makes that post, he's in a meeting to get an investor to come and do all of that. So it's really, and he's super excited. So it's crazy how fast some of the stuff can go once you know how to communicate and just have a little bit of inspiration to see that it's actually doable.
Yeah. And it's like, and everyone brings something different. So maybe he's got like, or someone's got the drive and the passion and they're learning about it, but another person says, well, I want this, but I have the money, here's the event, so I mean, it's like all working together. It's not all on one person. Everyone does have something that they bring into it.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I think a lot of people that come to us are the folks that don't have the money. It's like human nature to feel like everyone else is the same as us, and like you don't know what you don't know, right? So to one person, $100,000 might be a lot of money. To another person, that might be pocket change. Like they actually, like, to them, that's like not a big deal at all. Like they would be stoked to be a part of it and just send you a wire transfer for $100,000. And that is a huge part of it. Like a lot of people are in that position where maybe they own a home, but they still want to live this lifestyle. Maybe they want to live it part-time because they have some roots with their kids there or something, and family, I don't know. But people want to be a part of this, like a lot, and a lot of people don't have the time, or the energy or the knowledge. And the time and the energy and the knowledge is worth way more than the money. So people come in and they tend to think that what they're offering isn't valuable because they don't have the money, but it's actually way more valuable than the money. People just need to learn that and learn how to communicate that, and that's what we help with.
That's so cool. No, I love that. And I love that you're able to accomplish that. And then you're helping others with the same thing. Cause I think it's just going to be needed. Who knows where the world's going these days. So I think it's definitely valuable and needed.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think the world's going to, even if the world is going into a great direction, I still think I'd be happier doing what we're doing. And then if it's not, at least we're not caught with our pants down. At least we have a place where our family and friends can come and we can all still live happily. And I think COVID was a good demonstration of that. Like we're living up in the bush during COVID. And there was one point where I never left our property for 3 months straight. And we're pretty far out there. So there's like I would, my brother he would go into town and he'd bring back food and stuff, obviously, and I would just be, but when I went back into town, I walked into the first place with no mask on and I just started getting screamed at. And I'm just like, oh, wow. I was like, sorry. I was like, I totally forgot. Like I've just been up in the bush for 3 months and it's so peaceful. It felt like the world was as it should be. There was no news. There was no negativity. There was no fear. It was just living life on my own. I couldn't have cared less what was going on around me.
That's really funny because that's kind of similar to what I did. So I was living in Uvita and then COVID happened. And then I was like, I don't know what's going on with all this stuff, but I just went up the mountain. So I had horses at the time. I took all the horses up, went up to the mountain, lived in the middle of nowhere, had some nice neighbors. Like my daughter had no idea a pandemic was happening. Like we overall lived our lives fairly uninterrupted for the most part. We had all this space. There was jungle, the chickens or whatever. And nice, comfortable house. So it was great. And I was like, this is fine by me. It's actually like a lot of when my business started too, because I had extra time and I was just kind of, but it was so peaceful. So, it is something to say to have a nice, peaceful place to go during a crazy time. And that is worth a lot to, I would say, a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. For sure. It's a good life.
So what is like a day to day kind of look like over there for you guys? Because I guess you have food that you're growing. Sounds like you have animals. Like do you still do like the retreats, the Airbnb? Like what is kind of the day to day look like? Who all lives there? What are their roles?
Yeah, so we're big on systemizing things. So that's kind of a part of that human factors side of things that people generally have troubles with. A lot of people are like, oh, well, maybe some folks are elderly and they don't feel like building things or aren't physically like able to do that anymore, kind of thing. Or maybe people just straight up have zero building knowledge and they just have never done that, so they don't want to do that. Or I personally, like, I'm big on the food stuff, like I've mentioned, but I've never grown anything in my life, like ever. So, like we definitely like we help people play to their strengths and do that well and attract people to fill the needs and positions of their strengths, to combat one another's weaknesses. And that's pretty much what we've done. So we have Red Seal tradesmen living on site that build the stuff. We have two permaculture designers living on site right now. So they come with their families and they bring their tiny homes or their like trailers and stuff. And yeah, so it's great. Like they've designed a whole permaculture plan for our entire property, and they've like planted a full garden and whatnot. So we have like an intensively managed market garden, greenhouses full of tomatoes, like all the stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much how most of the work is done. So we've been able to. The first year was probably the hardest for Shelby and I. It was just more of us doing like more of the stuff, obviously. And then we kind of like moved through and leveled up our relationships and the people that were living with us as time went on. So at first, the first position that we had was a general caretaker that, they would help build a bit of stuff. They'd help with some maintenance and they would help clean and manage the stays for retreats and for short-term rentals. And that was invaluable, and they did it for free. It was like a live work exchange. So they came and parked their trailer or tiny home, and then they would work a couple hours a day and help us out. And that was great. It was easy, very easy. A lot of people ask about like, where do you find people? They're everywhere. Like we talked about before, like so many people want to live that lifestyle that you make a post on Facebook for like in the marketplace for like a place to rent, and you say, hey, you can come live for free if you bring a tiny home or trailer in exchange for a few hours of work every day. We got like 400 applicants or something within a couple of weeks. Like we were overflowing. I had to take the post down because I was overwhelmed. And so it's less about how to find people and more about how to filter them out to find the right fit, somebody who's aligned with you. So we give like a full kind of like application process where people come in and they go through the process, and there's alignment questions and there's problem solving questions, and then you can basically we filter out leaders. We want to find people who are leaders and take initiative, who can train other people if we have volunteers to come and do stuff, who can even train us so that we don't have to do everything. Like that's the whole point. So yeah, like if usually like we're hiring people who are better than us at doing that specific thing because they're there to teach us and vice versa. So that's been big. And then we set trial periods. So they come in, they meet us, they come for a week and they work with us. We see if we like each other. Then they come for 3 months. And then after that, then we'll sign a 1-year lease. And we do a lease instead of a tenancy like rental agreement, because with a rental agreement, that's when you can run into issues with people not wanting to leave your property and they have more rights over your land than you and things like that. So we do all commercial leases. So that's a good tip for folks. But yeah, day to day definitely has changed a lot, like throughout the journey, right? Like our goal is really to do what we want with our day to day. If I want to grow food and be in the garden, I'll do that. If I want to go tend to the chickens, I'll do that. If I want to build something that day or dig a pond or whatever, I'll do that. but we're right now, like, what I want to do is the education side. So we're out there learning new things so that we can teach people those new things, because that's what we're good at, is learning things and being able to, and what we want to do is help people with those learnings. So we like doing new stuff. So for example, we just bought an excavator and we're planning on building a pond network of 20 plus ponds that will hold over 200 million liters of water. So that's a big thing that is on the to-do list for this year that we're excited to, because we've never done it. So now we get to learn and then teach others.
That is so cool. I mean, it's like a life, it'll be like a literally like a life of never ending projects. That actually sounds like a lot of fun. No, that's so neat. And then, like what you said, and how to like to choose people, like maybe don't just grab the first person who says, oh, I'll come, it's actually, you can be more selective, and how to select those people that are going to be a good fit for your community. I just imagine all that knowledge is just super, super valuable. I actually know someone, I have a few people I'm going to send this video to for sure that I've worked with, and that one is already kind of doing something maybe a little bit similar down in the Osa Peninsula. So I think she could definitely benefit from some of your advice. And and then I have another, she wants to kind of transition out of online work, and she's going to go take a permaculture course. So she is interested in permaculture. So I think she's going to love this video too. And I just think this is so cool. And again, like your story of just, okay, like, let's just dive in there and see what happens. And, it'll work itself out. That you can encourage people, you can do this now. You just have to get creative. It's not that you have to wait until a certain point in your life, with, I guess, your steps, or with an actual solid plan and tools, this could actually happen like sooner than what you would think. And I love that.
I think a lot of people don't know where to start, so then they just never start. But by like, so I think, just as a general overall piece of advice for folks who are interested in it, the place to start is to have a plan. And the first step of the plan is to do the research. And basically what our program does is give you all that research. And research is odd because it's theoretical, whereas the experience side of that is where the real value is, the real life stories, being able to read between the lines and like give practical advice instead of just something, that you're seeing on YouTube, which is funny I say this because this is probably going to be on YouTube. But yeah, like just having advisors and stuff. So like doing that plan is where people never really do it. They just kind of like, they have like a random vision in their mind, and then they go and they try to do things and it fails. But like a vision is not a plan. A vision is not somebody taking it seriously enough. Like if you want to do it, just take it seriously. So we have a principle that we say, treat it like a business. And we don't mean that in a corporate way. We just mean that in like a structured, organized, planned way. It means like we use a business plan, financial projections, and pitch decks, for example, as tools for those plans. A lot of people, I don't know, they see that and they're like, oh, well, I'm not into business. Like, you don't have to be into business. It's a tool to organize information. If you want to use it, great. If you find something better, that's a better tool, then by all means, please go use that. I've just never found a better tool. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. You may as well just use it. And it just makes sure that you've covered all your bases. It helps you hone in your communication. A big part of it is actually learning what you want to do. Like if you go, like people think the first step is, let's go look at land. Let's go buy some land. Well, let's go find the people who want to buy the land with us. If you do that first, that actually is the worst thing that you could do. Like we have people that have gone out and done that. And, just some examples off the top of my head, people, they'll come to us after they've done that, which always breaks my heart, because there's nothing that we can really help with after people get themselves into a really bad scenario. And some of those might be like buying land without checking for a well, without checking the water table. Like we've had people that have done that, and then they've spent $60,000 and they've drilled 2 wells 500 feet deep with no water there. So now that they've drilled them, everyone else can see that there's no water there, so they can't sell it, and they have no water to live on it. So it's like they're just stuck between a rock and a hard place. So it's really brutal. We've had really good friends of ours and mentors of mine that have bought land, like spiritual mentors, and they bought land on Salt Spring Island off the coast of Vancouver here, and they built a beautiful retreat center. And then they went to open, and like it's on 80 acres. It's like millions and millions of dollars. And they went to open, and the regional governing authority, the governing body, said no, because their zoning and the governing authority didn't allow for it. So now they invested their life savings into this place that they can't open, and again can't sell it because they can't run it. And it's so many things. People who have built stuff in a floodplain because they didn't look at the lay of the land and know how to judge that before they bought it, and then all of a sudden it's fine for 10 years, and then all of a sudden it floods 2 feet underwater every single year repetitively. So there's just like wildfire, people not knowing how to address wildfire if you're in a place with trees, and like just so many things. Land zoning is a big one. And in order to know the land that's going to be the right fit for you, you need to know what you're doing on it. And that's something that people don't plan for, because let's say you go on some land and you buy it, and then you drill a well and you're like, oh yeah, I have some water, and that's fine, until you start trying to do permaculture farming, and then you realize I don't have enough water for this, and then you want to bring in some cows, you realize, oh, I don't have enough water for that. You want to do bring in some more people to live there. Oh, sorry, not enough water. So like everything changes everything. So you need to know what you want to do before. Or even land zone, you want to bring other people in or build some other structures, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, not allowed. You're like, well, shit, my plan just went out the window. So yeah, definitely. That's what we help people with, really, is that's the biggest thing. Is you start with a plan, then you know where you need, then you know your next steps, because your plan lays out exactly what to do.
Yeah, no, that's a huge, I guess like that's probably the most important key of advice here, it seems like, for getting started. Yeah, having your plan, and then you look for the land that's going to fit your plan, be the right fit for your plan. At least in Costa Rica, we do, like, you use lawyer for your property purchase, and your lawyer should be protecting you through that, like all of that, and should be checking into those things for you. So that helps. I'm not sure how it is up in Canada, or even as much in the United States, but
I never trust them, like, to be honest. Like, they're there, and like, they'll look through the documents and be a part of that. And like, it's kind of like trusting a real estate agent to tell you about the property, but they don't know. Like, they're there to sell you something. And then same with even the agent that's working with you to like go look at the property, especially with rural land. Nobody really knows. I've met only a select few people that can look at land the way that it needs to be looked at to understand how it's working and what's going on subterraneanly, what's going on with the soil, what's going on with the plant life. Yeah, people don't really know. Like, for example, you walk onto our land, and people are like, oh, okay, there's a bit of trees, and there's the terrain is like this or that, and blah blah blah. I'm like, we thought, for like just some examples that we've got to learn, especially around permaculture. Like, we've worked with some of the best permaculture consultants in the world, which has been really amazing for them to. We host workshops, which is another tip. If people want to learn fast from someone, what we'll do, because again, we had no money, but we knew that we needed to learn and hire good people to teach us things, and because we didn't know what we were doing. So what we did is we hosted workshops, and we would invite in these very, like, whatever high level expert we wanted to work with. And then we would sell tickets and host a workshop, and the workshop would pay for the person to come and teach us, which is great because everybody gets to learn for a cheaper rate than hiring them individually. Everybody loves it. You make great contacts and friends and stuff, and you get a designated, like, we walked away with a full permaculture plan for our property. So it's specific to our property. So it's actually, you basically get a free permaculture plan and free amazing knowledge and contacts. So really, yeah, that's a really great way of doing it. But walking around with some of these people, it was really amazing. They can look at the plant life, and they can see how the water is falling on the land and how it's running, and then tell us what's happening subterraneanly. They'll go on a quick program, and they'll see, okay, your prevailing wind is going north, and your south side of your property is uphill, and the trees are a lot smaller. That means that you are most likely to get hit by a wildfire from the south side. So you should actually allocate your resources for fire defense on that side and do a fire break and all these things. Like, a real estate agent can't tell you that stuff. They have no idea. Our real estate agent didn't even know anything about the property, especially with rural land. A lot of the times they're just like, here, go have a look. Like, a lot of times they don't even meet you there. So definitely very important to know all that stuff. And we cover all of that, like how to assess land, how to find land is another big one. Like, there's lots of outlets out there where you can find really inexpensive land. There's also needs, you know, a lot of people will just look for cheap land and they'll end up like 10 hours away. You know, we don't recommend that either. There's always pockets that are like, that are close to things, finding the climate that you like, being near a population density, so you have hospitals and stuff like that. Like you know, you're well aware of all of this because you help people do it. So, but I think this is a great example, and one, like, you're a great example of, and why I really was eager to reach out to you and learn from you, is that because we help people plan, my first recommendation is that they would work with you if they were moving to Costa Rica, because, like, you know, it's invaluable. Someone come and you know, work with you for a very nominal fee, and you're helping them make $100,000 decisions or $1 million decisions. So to invest $500 or $1,000 to do that is just such a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah. And just helping them pick that area. Cause all right, what I see is people, oh, I found this property. What do you think? And I'm like, that is out. I'm like, well, based on what you told me about yourself, that area is not a fit. You know, they'll just look at it based on the price, or, oh, but look at it. It looks so pretty. But I'm like, that area is a terrible fit for you. Or, you know, because of XYZ of what you've told me, like, this fits nothing of what you've said that you need and what is important to you. So that, yeah, that is important. Well, so I imagine that your course covers a lot, and I know that, like, courses, you know, or you know, programs evolve over time, and you guys are teaching more as you're learning more, you know, even with the pond example and everything. Would you want to give me a rundown of, like, what, or just what is kind of the outline of information that people do learn in working with you?
Yeah, honestly, it's so broad. I
I know
feel
it's
like
quite a lot.
it's just, yeah,
Like you
there's
mentioned, like,
tons.
sprinkled through, you know, like, well, we'll tell you how to, like, how to choose a land, maybe just kind of a rundown. I mean, I'm just curious, and I know that that could change over time, and I'm sure it changes for the better. You're always adding more, just like we do, you know?
Yeah. So we try to do it in like a linear fashion. So it's like, what would you use first? Or like, what would be the process of, like, what steps would you take in what order, kind of thing. So that's kind of how we start. Again, so a lot of it is like, you know, finding funding and like creating a plan for funding, you know, doing like clarifying your vision and learning how to communicate that is actually huge, because that's the thing that attracts a lot of like caretakers and a lot of the funding and things like that. And then it moves into actually finding the land. So we have a system that helps you locate the piece of property right down to the property that has the right zoning for you and the right amount of acres and all the things. And then how to assess, once you have an area that you like are interested in, then how to assess that property. So then that's a whole nother system of making sure that it has water, making sure it's protected from fire, making sure the zoning is right. You know, all of that stuff. Also, a lot of stuff around the economic engine side of stuff. So we call it an economic engine because we don't just help people with generating income on the property. We also help people with systemizing it so that it can become semi-passive or as passive as possible, so that they're able to, you know, like we are able to go, you know, just learn new things and do whatever it is that they would like to do. And a part of that is also, when you're assessing land, is potentials for using the land to cover its own purchasing costs. So an example of that is, you know, we bought land for 210,000 and we were told that we could log it for what was it? 280,000. So a lot of people will actually buy land, log it, pay for its own costs, and then have a little extra left over to start building a home. Now, we don't want to log all of it. That's not what we're about, because we want to regenerate the soil. But if you have trees, you're probably in a fire zone. So then you could actually log your fire break. So we are logging our fire break, and we got quoted at $50,000 just to log our fire break. So that covers 25% of our purchasing costs. That covers almost our entire down payment on our property, just right off the bat. Also carbon credits. We were told that we could probably pull roughly the same amount, or maybe not that much, but probably between 150 to 200,000 in carbon credits. Carbon credits, like the opposite of logging. It's like they just pay you to not cut your trees down, basically, which is interesting. And then there's all sorts of other like subdividing stuff that you could do in order to cover your purchasing costs. So then we get into like infrastructure. So planning the infrastructure. A lot of people we work with are off grid. So that would include, like, you know, solar power, wind, geothermal on the power side. And Then it would get into everything from like your food infrastructure for like, are you having greenhouses? What climate are you in? Do you need winterized greenhouses so you can grow in the winter? Are you using septic or compost toilets or incineration toilets? Or are you doing humanure for like composting methods? All of that stuff, and just buildings and structures with we do things in phases. So to get set up fast, there's certain types of structures you can use to get around certain bylaws. So you can use temporary dwellings, you can use, modular homes, you can use things that are like micro cabins that are like under a certain square footage that you don't need permits for and things like that. So we help people plan for that, making sure that those buildings can be fireproof as well, depending on where they're at, or like good for their climate. Budgeting for those building types. We work with some really creative financing partners and helping people do joint ventures. So for example, an example I use with joint ventures is like, let's say you can't afford something, but you want to buy a tiny home. Well, you can finance a tiny home for like $1,200 a month, and then you could rent it out on Airbnb and probably make like $4,000 a month. And then if you don't have the money to put the down payment on, you could actually just buy two, get somebody to come and put the down payment on and tell them you'll give them the profit from the other one. So you'd make like $2,800 in profit. You use $1,200 to pay for your personal tiny home as well, and then you're still left with $1,800 or $1,600 or whatever in profit, and you just give that to that person every month for helping you put the down payment down. So there's all sorts of like joint ventures and stuff. You can often go to companies, and companies will actually do joint ventures with you and just like they'll plop their stuff down. We've been offered like Airstream trailers for people to just come and park it there for us to rent out, and you do a 70-30 split. With 70% for us because we're managing it, which is so some really cool options to get started with no money. And then land design and layout, that's a really big one. So like you don't want to like drill a well in one place and then build your garden over here, and then you're 1,000 feet away, because that's going to cost you X dollars in time and energy. You can actually waste tens of thousands, or not even tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars on like labor costs, the energy of the labor, fuel costs, maintenance costs from driving back and forth and walking back and forth because your setup is not efficient. So we use permaculture methods to make sure that your setup is efficient and that things are built where they should be built. And like where your water lines are running, just all sorts of stuff. So yeah, lots on there on the planning side of things. And then all the systems we talked about for the human side of things. So that would be like, based like how to attract people, where to post and how to get them in, how to filter them out, very importantly, what agreements to use and contracts and legal stuff as well. And just like general leadership and management structures. So like how to structure your time and communication in a way that like you don't need to constantly be holding someone's hand. You don't need to be interrupted every 20 minutes when somebody needs help and all that kind of stuff. Then like the food growth and raising animals side of things. I will note this is not a permaculture course. If you want to learn what percentage of nitrogen versus carbon needs to be in your garden and things like that, like that's not what this is. But we give a systemizing like overview of how to use permaculture. It might be just as simple as like, what animals do you generally need to like or regenerate the soil? How do you design the training paddock system and the electric fencing to move those animals around in a good way, and things like that. Like it's more high level. It's not getting into like the detailed science of any of that stuff, just so people know. In the future, we will get into the detailed science, and that will be we'll come up with a dedicated permaculture program. But everything we teach in here is still permaculture based. It's still really based on living in alignment with nature. We believe nature is, the most intelligent technology that has ever existed and probably ever will. So we may as well utilize that. And then the last couple will be like tools, equipment, and machinery, often very overlooked. People just think they're going to go out there with a shovel. That's not the case. We help people choose the machinery that's right for them and right for their property and what they're using it for, how to finance it or buy it and get good deals on it, and how to leverage that as an asset in a financial sense so that it's not a liability. And then community connection and resources. So we got all our groups. We have a resource sheet of all of our contacts and everybody that we've used, as well as the people that our community has used, which is now over 3,000 people, like 3,200 people or something like that. So yeah, people all over the world in 21 plus countries at the moment. So people all over are putting in their resources into like a common document, so everybody can go through and find connections and suppliers and materials and all the things. Like an example is like solar power. You want to, find solar power, we got the best suppliers and they give discounts and stuff for our audience and everything. So we don't take commission on any of that, by the way. I'll say that we just work with people who we actually like, because it's quality shit. We're big on just quality stuff that's not going to break on you. Yeah, so it's quite a bit, but it's thorough. We try to be as thorough as possible.
I mean, I imagine it is. I mean, it sounds amazing, for someone who wants to do that and doesn't, like you said, doesn't know where to start. This is definitely the overall plan. They could get more into the animal care, the permaculture things in the future. But no, this is amazing. And I'm excited. I mean, I hope that people who are watching this on my channel will get to reach out and, this could be something that they could do for themselves. And if you guys do end up doing that, then let me know that you did it, because I think that's super cool. And then I can interview you on how it all went,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
Building a worldwide army, of people that can finally do this for themselves. So I think it's super cool.
Yeah, and people are big on like the worldwide thing and just connecting with other people doing it. We have people send us photos in our groups of them having like holiday dinners together and stuff, and they'll just connect with each other. So, if people do get into our groups and stuff, I do recommend just, throw out what you want to do, tell the group a bit about it, where you're at, or your general location. And there's, always people connecting who are nearby. Like people, that's a question we get a lot, is like, are there people nearby? I see it every day. People just throw out, hey, I'm in X, Y, or Z, near X, Y, or Z city or whatever. And almost always there's people like, oh yeah, no, I'm right here. Like, connect with me or whatever. And so that's really great to see, and people feel supported. And we are coming out with an app that will help consolidate that communication better, where people can like find each other and connect with each other even easier.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think the community aspect of things is super important. So that's great that you guys have incorporated that, and I'm excited about it. This is really great.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here. So if anybody needs more information on Jaymie, what he does, you can email me, or I'll have his links down in the description, so you can just directly go view their information, get in touch with him. And again, yeah, share if you end up kind of going for this, or maybe there's other people in Costa Rica who want to do the same thing. So at least I know a few. So I think this is going to be great information for everybody. So I really appreciate
and if anyone from your audience specifically is wanting to do it in Costa Rica, we have a big part of our audience is definitely into the same thing. And like I mentioned some examples earlier, people already setting up and doing it. The group is really open and supportive. So, if you get into some of our groups, we can do introductions to those folks. If anybody does a trip down or something that you help them plan, we can help make those introductions as well, if people wanted to just see what other folks have going on for similar setups like this.
Absolutely. And also, actually, I have a lot of people watch the channel, obviously from the United States, from Canada, from other countries too. So again, like, this doesn't just apply for Costa Rica. And, we have a ton of Canadian clients. So maybe they can't move out of the country for whatever reason. Maybe they have grandkids, whatever it could be. They just really are tied to where they are, but they could still have that lifestyle that maybe they were hoping for down here, but they could accomplish it where they are. So I think this is great options.
Beautiful. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again.